Justin Free, Evangelist Justin Free, is with me here today in the studio. Nice to see you, Justin.
Good to see you.
It's been a long time, but you know, I realized something here when I saw you today. You know, you graduated from our Bible school here in St. Catharines in 1999, and I can't call you a young preacher anymore. You're not starting out anymore. You've been at this now for longer than most, you know. And so wonderful that you came to be with us here today. So let's just get right into it. Tell me a little bit, how did God's call come to you?
Well, that's an amazing, good question, because, you know, it's been an awesome journey. And I was born in Kingston, Ontario, raised there. And I've had some great experiences with God in my life. And I've always known that God had something for my life as far as a calling, you know, to preach the gospel. And I remember one meeting in Kingston, particularly, I was at, and the pastor at the time was praying for me. And it was like I was at the front of the church, and I just had a vision. And it was like I saw people, and I was on a platform, and I was speaking to them, and I was like, it was right before me, and as I had my eyes shut, I was just, you know, in the spirit, and I knew then there was something God was stirring in me. And the way that God just seemed to work in my life, it was just like people were coming into my life at the right time to speak to me, encourage me. It was just amazing because, you know, growing up, I didn't know what an evangelist was. I didn't know what really...
So did you come from a home of committed believers?
Yeah, my family, I'm so thankful for all my family. They were such a blessing to me, and they were always, you know, encouraging me in the Lord. Yeah, I came from a family that loves the Lord and really has done the best they can do to raise their family in God. And
well, that's wonderful. Now, so then you launched, when you went down Bible school, you launched, I remember you were like a wild horse. We couldn't hold you back. You were going with the gospel.
I tell you, you know what? It's like a fire. You know, when it gets in you, it's like a, you know, Jeremiah said, it's like a fire shut up in my bones. And I remember in Bible school, one of the things I did was I put a world map up behind my bed. That was just, you know, something I did because it was a passion. And going to Bible school, you know, it had such an impact on my life because the nations, you know, reaching the nations for Christ.
Because in our Bible school, you hear that, you know, we put a little gentle Holy Spirit pressure on there so that people feel the fire of that burning in their hearts, you know.
And it just hit me so strong. And I remember days when I would be praying over the map, and literally I would just be weeping, praying, God, thank you for this country. And he would just, it was such a passion that gripped my life. And you know, before I came to Bible college, I was really wanting to know that this was God's plan for me. That he really wanted me to go to Bible college. And I had other ideas. Growing up, I wanted to be, you know, I actually wanted to play kind of professional hockey at one time.
I think every Canadian boy wants that.
You know, it's like hockey. I was always on skates growing up. You know, it was just our families. My grandpa played for Team Canada in 1949, and hockey's been in our family. So anyway, but getting to where I felt the calling of God, it was a service I was going to in Kingston at the time. And I was really praying about Bible school and about going to Bible school. It was just really in my heart. And I actually heard about the Bible school in St. Catharines, and I just knew that I wanted to know, God, is this your will for my life? So I went to church, a church service that night, and the pastor at the time called me up, and he had a word for me. And he said, Justin, the Spirit of God spoke to me. He said, you're going to the nations. And at that time, I was only 17 years old, and I was like, I'd never been on an airplane in my life, and it was just amazing. I knew that. I knew that.
How many countries have you been to now?
I've got to preach in 32 countries.
That's pretty good.
And I'm 32 years old.
My goodness, you started young, and so that's why you haven't had a chance to get married yet. You've been running out to 32 different countries here. You know, you don't have time to. You've been too busy preaching the gospel.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and so now you have a little bit of a track record here. You know, though you're still young, so I shouldn't say you're not young. 32 is young. Believe me, if you don't feel it now, you'll agree with me later on. But you have a track record of preaching the gospel. So tell me, has God confirmed his word? When you preach this gospel, you tell people that Jesus heals, that Jesus is miraculous. Well, have you seen miracles? Has it worked?
You know, it's been amazing when I sit back and I look at some of the things that God has done. And it's just amazing because, you know, we cannot do anything in ourselves. It's only by God's grace working us. And so in some of the meetings we've had, it's been awesome. You know, I've also got a tent. Our ministry has a tent. We've been doing some tent meetings. And we've had some awesome, you know, people, you know, come and receive from God. And particularly, we've had blind people see, we've had deaf people hear. And it's been awesome to see what Jesus does.
You give some, for instance, from some of the meetings, whether in Canada or elsewhere, maybe tell one or two specific stories.
You know, I remember there was a night I was preaching in Kisii, Kenya, in Africa, East Africa. And we were getting into the prayer service for healing. And at that time, I felt, you know, a great presence for people to be healed. And I was just praying. And all of a sudden, as I was praying from the platform, there was a woman who just fell to the ground. You know, people looked over and like, we wondered what happened to her. Well, after a few minutes and some other people were getting healed and they came up to testify, she came up and she had been blind and God healed her and gave her sight back. And it's just amazing because the pastor and I have kept in touch, and that was a verified miracle. She received her sight. And she's seeing well. And that, you know, it's just one of the miracles.
Yeah. Now you travel, you use a tent, and you do that across northern part of Canada.
That's right.
And you go into communities, some of them native communities, and you pitched a tent there. And how long do you stay in a place?
You know what? We had our tent up. The longest we had it up was 4 weeks. And every night we got to preach right across the road from a big casino.
Yeah, that sounds...
You know, it was just great. We had a soccer field, and we got to share the love of Jesus. And it was just amazing to see all the people that might not enter a church, but come to the tent. And it was really cool. Can I share one story?
Yeah, please.
There was one night, it was Elvis impersonation night at the casino. So everybody was dressing, like trying to be like Elvis.
Yeah.
So we had one gentleman. And he had heard the message from the parking lot. And he came over to the tent. And he was sitting at the side, the corner. And he left. A few minutes, came back. And it wasn't long before he just all of a sudden, in the middle of the message, came right up. And he said, I want to give my life to Jesus. And I mean, I thought it was Elvis. I mean, you know, seeing him come in the tent. But anyway, he explained he was over impersonating Elvis.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, he got to know the Lord and got healed in his knee.
Isn't that beautiful? So you were running competition there with Elvis impersonation night. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you dress up like Elvis yourself?
I don't think so. I wouldn't pass the test for that. But
well, you know, you make that hair a little darker there, and we could work on it. You know, a young Elvis, mind you. Now, what do you find is the theme in your message that you bring to people? What are you trying to tell people, whether you're in some other country, in the Middle East, or whether you're in Canada or among the native population in other parts of it? What is the core of your message?